What would you do if a billionaire mocked you in front of a crowd, turning your pain into entertainment, only to later discover that you carried a secret powerful enough to change his entire life forever? Today's story is going to break your heart, inspire your spirit, and remind you why kindness can change everything. But before we dive into this unforgettable tale, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe to our channel, because stories like this are meant to be shared with the world. Now let's begin. The grand ballroom of the Rivera Hotel sparkled with crystal chandeliers, gold-lined pillars, and a sea of people dressed in diamonds and silk. It was one of those charity galas where the wealthy came to flaunt their power under the mask of generosity. At the center of it all stood Adrien Leclerc, a man whose reputation stretched further than his empire. The world called him a genius businessman, but behind closed doors, whispers followed him, arrogant, ruthless, untouchable. That evening, the ballroom echoed with laughter as the orchestra filled the air with soft violins. Waiters in black uniforms slipped through the crowd with trays of champagne, and among them was Isabella, a quiet young maid, her hair pulled into a tight bun, her eyes lowered, her apron pristine. She moved silently, almost invisible, until fate dragged her into the cruel spotlight. Adrien, known for mocking anyone who seemed beneath him, spotted Isabella pouring drinks by the stage. With a smirk, he raised his glass and called out loudly enough for the crowd to hear. "You there, Maid?" he said, his voice dripping with disdain. "Do you know the tango?" The room quieted, curious. Isabella froze, her hands trembling as she clutched the tray. Her dark eyes flicked toward him, unsure if he was serious. "You're serving us like some shadow in the corner," Adrien continued. "Why don't you entertain us instead? Dance the tango for everyone. And who knows," he smirked, his voice thick with mockery, "if you're good enough, maybe I'll marry you." The crowd erupted in cruel laughter. To them, it was a joke, a rich man humiliating the help. Isabella's heart thudded painfully. Memories flooded back, her childhood filled with music, her father teaching her to dance in the dim glow of their little living room. That was before illness stole him away, before poverty crushed her family, forcing her into this job just to survive. She had not danced in years, but in her heart, the tango was not just steps and music, it was the language of her soul. Her hands shook, but then she lifted her chin. A quiet fire sparked in her chest. If he wanted a show, he would have one. Isabella stepped forward, placing the tray down carefully. The orchestra faltered, confused, until she spoke in a voice that carried strength the crowd didn't expect. "Play the tango," she said. Whispers rippled across the room. Adrien raised a brow, amused by her boldness, and with a flick of his hand signaled the band. The violins began, deep and sultry. Isabella closed her eyes, letting the rhythm wash over her, and then she danced. Every step, every flick of her foot, every graceful turn told a story, the story of love, loss, and resilience. The ballroom that had laughed at her minutes ago now held its breath. Even Adrien, smug and untouchable, felt something shift inside him as he watched. She wasn't just a maid. She was fire. She was art. When the music stopped, silence hung in the air, heavy and awestruck. Then thunderous applause shook the room. Some guests stood, clapping wildly. Adrien clapped too, hiding the confusion rising in his chest. He had tried to humiliate her, but instead she had conquered the room. Isabella bowed slightly. Her cheeks flushed, and without a word, returned to her duties as if nothing had happened. But Adrien couldn't look away. That night, long after the gala ended, Adrien found himself staring into his glass of whiskey in his penthouse suite, haunted by her eyes, her poise, her silent strength. He couldn't understand why he cared. She was just a maid, was she? Little did he know, Isabella held a secret, one that tied her fate to his in ways he could never imagine. The days that followed brought an unexpected change. Adrien, for reasons he couldn't explain, began seeking her out. He would stop her in the hallways of the Rivera Hotel, ask unnecessary questions, make small talk. It was strange. He, the man who never wasted time, now found himself craving the presence of a maid. But Isabella kept her distance. She answered politely, never more than needed, her eyes betraying no emotion. Still, Adrian noticed something, her sadness. It was subtle, woven into her quiet smiles, the way she sometimes paused when she thought no one was watching. One evening, Adrian spotted her leaving the hotel early. She was walking down the dark street, clutching a small paper bag of groceries. Without thinking, he followed. She stopped at a rundown building on the edge of town, its paint peeling, the windows cracked. Inside, through a flickering light bulb, Adrian saw a frail woman lying in bed, Isabella's mother. For the first time in years, something pierced his heart: compassion. He stayed hidden, listening as Isabella's soft voice filled the room. "Don't worry, Mama. I'll find a way, I promise." That night, Adrian couldn't sleep. He had mocked her, humiliated her, and yet she carried herself with dignity while bearing burdens heavier than any he had known. The next day, he summoned her to his office. "You dance beautifully," he began, his tone softer than before. "Why are you working here as a maid?" Isabella hesitated. She wanted to stay silent, but something in his eyes told her she could speak. So, carefully, she revealed a piece of her truth. "My father was once a great musician. He taught me everything. But when he died, debts consumed us. My mother is ill, and the only way to survive was to work here. Dance was my dream, but dreams don't feed you." Adrian sat quietly, her words cutting deeper than he expected. He saw now that she wasn't weak or desperate. She was strong, stronger than anyone he knew. But what he didn't know was her secret. Weeks later, at another gala, Isabella's life changed forever. The event honored the legacy of a late composer whose lost manuscripts had recently been rediscovered. As the host spoke of his brilliance, Isabella's eyes filled with tears. That composer was her father. Gasps spread through the room when she finally stepped forward and revealed it. "My father," she whispered, her voice trembling, "was the man you honor tonight. His music runs in my veins. That's why I dance the tango as if my soul was on fire, because it was his gift and it will never die." The crowd erupted, not with laughter this time, but admiration. And Adrian, he felt his chest tighten. The maid he had mocked was not just a maid, she was the daughter of a legend. She was extraordinary. From that moment, Adrian changed. He used his wealth not to control, but to lift. He arranged for Isabella's father's music to be published, her mother's treatment to be funded, and Isabella herself to return to the stage, not as a maid, but as the dancer she was born to be. And though he had once mocked her with cruel words, in the end, it was Adrian who found himself whispering to her, not in arrogance but in reverence. "Dance the tango with me, and if you'll allow it, let me walk by your side, not above you." The ballroom that had once mocked her now rose to their feet as Isabella and Adrian danced, not in jest, but in love. So, what began as mockery turned into redemption, and a maid who was once humiliated became the queen of the stage, forever changing the heart of a millionaire. If this story touched you, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to our channel, because we have more stories that remind us that kindness, love, and courage can rewrite destiny.